Hey, what's up, Zach here? And yeah, I usually only do a top 5 outdoor basketball shoe list at the beginning of the spring. However, it's autumn here in North America, and it is still pushing 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and it doesn't look like it's going to calm down anytime soon. So more people are playing outdoor basketball for longer during the year in more places in the world. So I think I'm going to start doing this every 6 months. There also have been a ton of new shoes out that I've gotten a lot of questions about whether or not they'll break into my top 5 outdoor list. So let's get into the top 5 outdoor basketball shoes for fall and winter 2024 and 2025. Let's get into them. All right, so coming in at number 5 is a shoe, kind of surprising how well they did on outdoor courts, especially with durability of the midsole, uppers, as well as the outsole tread. But also it's a fantastic shoe that really just spans every sport in terms of court sports, no matter what court you're on. Indoor, hardwood, rubberized, composite, outdoor asphalt, cement, and concrete. That is the 361 degrees Big 3 5.0 Quick Pro. They really have to shorten the names of their shoes. But the reason I like these so much is, yeah, I know the outsole tread is these really flat hexagons that's broken up by triangles. It's not the thickest tread out there, but the durability has been there for me. And the rubber hardness, rubber science of these things is really, really fantastic. And honestly, to me, this is a really good substitute for the AG4 on outdoor courts. And I've talked about the AG4 being so protective, so insulating to those really unforgiving outdoor courts. The 5.0 Quick Pro does a lot of the same things because of that beta thermoplastic foam, the bottom loaded shank. It's also super breathable, but the shoe is breathable, but the containment is also there, right? I know it's a pretty minimalist looking shoe in the uppers, but it has outsized containment for how breathable the shoe is. So in a more minimalist package of a shoe, you're getting all of that just, protection from those really, really unforgiving outdoor courts. You're getting the containment of a shoe that's a little bit bigger than it, and the outsole tread, super nimble on really every court you put it on. I would watch out for really extreme dragging or sliding because, yeah, there's just not as much rubber down there. But if you're not someone that produces a ton of heat and friction when you are playing someone that has a little bit more nimble footwork, this is going to reward you with that nimble footwork. Really doesn't matter what type of outdoor court you put it on. All right, now coming in at number 4 is a tie between two versions of the exact same shoe. You probably know what I'm going to say. That is the New Balance two-way V4 and V5. The reason for that being is this shoe, at least right now still, is $49 in some places. And although I think the V5 maybe the uppers are just a little bit more comfortable. The midsole is a little bit more consistent, right? Maybe just a tad more pop here and there. They're both such still fantastic shoes. The V5s, to me, the outsole tread might be a little bit more consistent in gripping versus the V4s, but they're relatively, like I said, very, very similar shoes. So if you're looking to go for the discounted, version of that, I still think the V4 is just fine for outdoor courts. Once again, this is one of the better tennis shoes out there. I see a lot of people that I've kind of talked to kind of go toward the two-way line. It just kind of fits their game a little bit better versus some of the other tennis offerings. So obviously you can watch both of the review videos, kind of make your own decision which one you think would be better for you. But to me, I don't really think one is better than the other at this point, given the price difference between them, but they both deserve, for sure, still to be on this list. But the interesting thing is about the two-way line being such a good tennis shoe versus others is that the number 3 shoe on this list is actually, to me, just as good of an outdoor basketball shoe as a tennis shoe, maybe if not better, and that is the New Balance Coco CG2. Yes, the CG1 is over there on the wall, but the CG2, to me, for outdoor basketball, it's really hard to get better than this shoe at this point. Now, this shoe does run a little bit narrow, even in its wide width. That's really the wide width of this is more of kind of like a generous medium. So that's really, and like I said, it is a very substantial shoe. There's lots of padding and reinforcement in the uppers. So they can take a little bit to break in for wider feet. Medium and narrow feet, it's really no big deal. The outsole tread on these things, to me, is one of the most perfect outdoor court treads out there. It's got enough grit and grip to grip and pivot, but it's strong enough to withstand sliding and dragging, especially because of who it's made for, Coco Gauff, who slides quite a bit on the tennis court. It also has that energy arc under there, which is basically just a carbon fiber leaflet plate going into the forefoot, but the way it's sandwiched in the foam on the teardown, you can see, it's not uncomfortable by any stretch of the imagination, but it also, you can definitely feel it underfoot. These are some of the fastest, bounciest, just most violent shoes out there in terms of speed and pop up off the ground. And while I just talked about how the two-way line from the 4 to the 5, like I said, I think you can get away with the predecessor versus the new one. The Coco CG2 to me is a clear upgrade. It is a clear difference in shoes. For outdoor basketball, to me, this is definitely an absolute step up. In terms of tennis, I think there's a lot of nuance between the shoes, and some people might like the ones versus the twos. But for outdoor basketball, besides the fit for wider width people, to me, this is really quite a step up. Before I get to the number 2 shoe, I do want to make mention of my favorite budget shoe for outdoor courts, and that would be the Iceblood 2 from Way of Wade. Used to be the Adidas Dawn Issue 5, except for that now they're becoming harder and harder to find. If you can find that, obviously still a fantastic outdoor shoe, obviously a fantastic outdoor tennis shoe as well. But right now, the Iceblood 2, to me, you want like the ultimate in durability of a shoe, a little more speed out there. The Iceblood 2, really fantastic pickup. And coming in at number 2 is an oldie but a goodie. It is the Way of Wade All City 12. Now there is the All City 12 Encore, which I'm honestly not a huge fan of for outdoor courts. You can take them on there, sure. I mean, it's got a durable rubber, but it is just so thin that the All City 12 to me just is still a much better shoe for outdoor courts. On indoor courts, I kind of think there's a lot to like about the Encores, to be honest. But on outdoor courts, you really just can't substitute this chunky type herringbone, really stout pattern on the All City 12s, as well as all the breathability that the 12s have as well, the lateral containment on them. So, whereas on indoor courts, yeah, I personally like the Encores better than the 12s. On outdoor courts, I still think the 12s kind of reign supreme. And before I get to the number 1 shoe on this list, and I'm sure you're wondering what it is if it's not the All City 12, after I've been talking about the All City 12 for 6 months and how good it is, there is an odd story to that. But before I get to that, I do want to make mention of one thing that I've been working on very hard behind the scenes for the better part of a year and a half, and that is the launch of my first footwear model, the Xenon Zen, obviously in collaboration with Xenon Paddle. This is the prototype colorway. This is not actually the final colorways. They'll be available when it launches, but you can go to footdoctorzach.com/sandal now to actually get more information on this about its launch date. It is coming up very soon. By the time you're watching this video, it may have already been released, so make sure you check out footdoctorzach.com/sandal for updates. It's going to be a wild ride, especially when I have to review my own sandal. So let's get to the number 1 shoe. And honestly, the reason that I say this is an odd story about the number 1 shoe is that it was honestly just an oversight on my part. And I think it's because I liked its predecessor so much and I was just so enamored with it that in my own mind, I almost like became biased toward it for some reason, and I'm not sure why. Because then once I started kind of looking at it again, giving it a fresh look, a fresh play test in them, yeah, they really are the number 1 shoe, and that is the Way of Wade Fission 9. Now, like I said, these really, like I said, were just kind of an oversight the last time I made this video. And maybe a month or 2 after I made it, I'm sitting there thinking, like, what was I thinking? That's another reason why it's always good to have these updates, because there's sometimes things you just miss. The reason that the Fission 9 to me is such a good outdoor shoe is how consistent it grips across conditions. Number 1 being temperature conditions, number 2 being on-court conditions, whether or not it's slick paint, blacktop, whatever. And especially now where, yeah, maybe it's a million degrees right now out, but tomorrow it may not be. It might be slick and cold. And so having something like this, especially with having a bottom-loaded shank coming into the forefoot of the shoe, plus, that more sandwich shank, plus the dual densities of foam and the dual compounds of foam on this, it just does give you kind of that feeling of security on an outdoor court when, like I said, the conditions can be very, very unforgiving, especially, you're playing hard, right? You're playing other people where you might be stepping on other people's feet. And, a lot of times pickup games on outdoor courts, they can, they're dangerous, right? Those courts are unforgiving. And so having something like this, especially with the breathability that it has as well, like I said, after kind of putting them back on and just kind of seeing where my biases were coming from, just because, like I said, I thought the Fission 8 was just one of the best basketball shoes ever. Like I said, I don't think I gave this enough credit when I had it on at first. But in terms of an outdoor basketball shoe, yes, I think they are just as good as the All City 12. And to me, honestly, I also think it's kind of a similar setup to the New Balance Fresh Foam BBV2, which I know I had talked about for outdoor courts as well. And so I think maybe having this shoe too, because these are pretty similar type setup shoes for outdoor courts. And so I think, well, the consistency and everything and the protection underfoot, everything I'm talking about. So I think this may have also clouded my judgment that I kind of wanted to put this type of profile shoe in the place of the Fission 9, whereas I do think the Fission 9 is a little bit better than the Fresh Foam BBV2 on outdoor courts. On indoor courts, I do like the BBV2 a little bit better. And that's the reason I picked these over this here, because I do think the Fission 9 maybe a little bit more breathable, maybe just a little bit more rugged versus the BBV2 on indoor courts, which obviously if you've watched the videos, you know what these things, the BBV2 can do on an indoor court that a lot of other shoes cannot. So love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I will have a playlist of all of these shoes linked, I think, right here up above, and then make sure you subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.